It's isolating, and it makes you very suspicious, and it stops you being able to like really enjoy things, and it sort of brings a dark cloud over a lot of stuff in your life. Since I made a bunch of videos responding to Ralph Smart's claims about what will be happening in the near future, I've had a number of people leave comments on those videos saying things like, yeah, but he was right though. So I thought, why not take a look at some of those claims, see whether he was right, and if he was right, how right was he? So in this video, I'm going to be looking at one claim specifically, which is something that Ralph Smart has talked around. I'm not sure I need to say this, but just for clarity, this video is in no way an endorsement of Ralph Smart's opinions or beliefs or his channel in general. If you want to hear my thoughts, my opinions, my concerns about the things that Ralph has said in the past, then there's a number of videos on the channel regarding that already. To be super clear going into this, my opinions regarding vaccines and mandates and stuff are this. I am pro-vaccine, anti-mandate, but pro-incentives. If that's not clear enough, then ask me what I mean by that in the comment section. I'm happy to explain that further, but that's not the focus of this video. Anyway, let's get on with this. So going back a couple of years, there were a lot of claims about vaccine mandates and vaccine passports becoming a thing in the near future from people who we would call conspiracy theorists, and Ralph Smart among them, making claims around that point. And here we are in 2022, and those things have started to happen. So, you know, credit where it's due. There's a degree of accurate prediction there, but hold your horses, because that is probably as much of an endorsement as I'm about to give that position. The trouble is with this whole like, oh, they're going to make vaccine passports a thing, they're going to make vaccine mandates a thing, is that we've kind of got like a chicken and egg scenario here. Because, well, okay, so to really explain what I mean by this, I think it's probably a good idea to start with a quote from a guy called Milton Friedman. Now, Milton Friedman is, I would say, was a capitalist extremist, which I think is the best way to start any video like this, right? Just with a glimpse of a terrifying ideology. Only a crisis, actual or perceived, produces real change. When that crisis occurs, the actions that are taken depend on the ideas that are lying around. That, I believe, is our basic function: to develop alternatives to existing policies, to keep them alive and available until the politically impossible becomes the politically inevitable. When you put an idea in someone's head, like for instance, you know, they're going to make mandates a thing and people are going to be forced to get vaccinated, you put that idea in someone's head and then you follow that up with trying to convince people not to get vaccinated, you're basically tabling a possible future. So it becomes a political inevitability, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And, you know, I hate to say it, but in times of crisis, if you allow power, if you give power the opportunity to expand, when that crisis is over, it is very unlikely to give up that new territory. It does happen from time to time, but it's not always the case. So in whipping up a frenzy about mandates and using that as part of an impetus to avoid vaccination, well, what you're doing is you're basically tickling the itchy trigger finger of power that is ready and willing to expand if you give it the opportunity to, you know. Especially when it's got like an ideology that it wants to sort of gently push. And I'm not talking big old conspiracy theories here, I'm talking about regular old capitalism, you know, these days neoliberal free market capitalism that wants very little government involvement in the market. You give it an inch and it'll take a mile, and in a crisis period you give it an opportunity to expand and push in that direction, it'll take it. Normally when a crisis period's not, you know, when we're not in a crisis, there's checks and balances that would hold that in place. But when those checks and balances feel like they're less necessary, when there's something more important going on, like a pandemic say, well then it feels like there's more important things than, you know, not allowing these people to have this kind of power. And as I say, once they've got it, it's unlikely that things will go back to how they were before. I mean, there's this term that we're hearing all the time at the moment, the new normal, right? I think that sort of quite nicely epitomizes that. And again, there's some truth to what you'll hear conspiracy theorists saying, I think, on these kinds of things. But I mean, there's a good quote in Inside Job on Netflix. They were saying all this stuff that you're talking about, all these ideas, all these theories that you've got, that's basically just capitalism. And to be fair, it kind of is. And to be fair, I don't want to demonize capitalism. I think there's a lot of really nasty things that it encourages. You know, selfishness is clambering over each other and just going for whatever we want and wrecking the planet in the process, you know. I don't want to just scapegoat capitalism here, but I think we have to recognize that it does enable some of the worst qualities of humanity. But all that said, and I think this is a big but, and I cannot lie, I don't think those of us who are pro-vaccine should celebrate the more sort of authoritarian push towards, forcing people to get vaccinated. I do think it's important to preserve the choice to do so, even if we have incentives programs. You know, I don't think we should be celebrating, and I think this is the real concern, rationalize a justification for it, because, you know, for instance, in America, because the government is somewhat representative of our side of the political, you know, spectrum, if you like. And let's be fair, it's not really a left government, is it? It's sort of like slightly left of centre, but if that. But I don't think that those of us who are pro-vaccine should allow ourselves to gloat, allow ourselves to become self-righteous at the idea that, see, you didn't want to get it and now you've got to get it, and it's good that you do because it's going to be better for everyone. Like, maybe that's true, and I think that it is true if more people get vaccinated, but I do think the preservation of choice, the preservation of freedoms in that way is super, super important. Anti-vaxxers are pretty quick to bring up, you know, blank was legal, and they'll sort of draw false equivalencies between what's going on now and historical atrocities, and then use that to fan the flames of their outrage. And they're probably jumping the gun there a little bit, but let's hope that the, you know, recent surge in nationalism doesn't mean that richer countries continue to hoard the vaccines while the poorer countries don't get access to them, and then entire countries become quarantined off, you know, sort of cordoned off, because that's where the virus is spreading unimpeded. It's hope that things don't go in that way. I don't think it's all doom and gloom, though. I think that there are definitely ways that don't involve rampant capitalism to solve the problem, nor ways that involve rampant government overreach, if you like. I'm a perpetual optimist, though. I'd be interested to see what you think in the comments below. Keep it light. Try not to argue with anybody too much. Keep it civil. But one thing that I do try to remember is this, and I'm about to read you something that I wrote for my Instagram recently, so just before I do that, if you're on Instagram and you're not following me over on there, then definitely do that. If you're enjoying the content on the channel, it's a very similar kind of content, obviously written form, and I'm sharing stories and stuff. This is something I always try to remember with conspiracy theories and predictions of the future. Pay attention to conspiracy theories. The most paranoid among us have a way of seeing what's coming. Don't become a conspiracy theorist, but don't ignore everything they say either. The trick is not to get enthralled by wild stories and the certainty they offer without dismissing the grain of truth most conspiracy theories hold. But be watchful and stay honest. Conspiracy theories are like brain worms. They burrow into fear and distrust and turn it into an isolating paranoia. And honestly, I speak from experience with that. You know, I was big into conspiracy theories back in the day when I was, you know, full on New Age and all that stuff. And it's isolating, and it makes you very suspicious, and it stops you being able to like really enjoy things, and it sort of brings a dark cloud over a lot of stuff in your life. But usually when I upload a video like this, there's stuff I can't say in the video, be it due to time constraints or because YouTube doesn't like you talking about certain things on the platform. And I think with a topic like this, that is, you know, especially true. So whenever I do put a video like this up, I tend to put an audio companion up on my Patreon as well. So if you're interested in hearing that, definitely check out my Patreon. There's a link to that in the description and on the end card in just a second. I'm Andy Fellows, and this channel is all about where good intentions become bad ideas, and thinking for yourself in the face of cults, destructive spirituality, and toxic online culture. Please be kind and ask good questions, and I'll see you in the next one.